Hey guys, welcome to this video. My name is John Watts. I'm a consumer protection lawyer. I want to talk with you for just a moment about the concept of removal. And that is where we file a case in state court and then the defendants remove it or transfer it to federal court. So let's talk about why they can do that, and then under what circumstances can they do this, and then is this good or bad? So the theory behind why they can do this is if you're suing under a federal claim, so Fair Credit Reporting Act, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, Electronic Funds Transfer Act, in other words, any of these federal statutes, then it kind of makes sense that even though you can bring them in state court, the defendant can say, hey, this is a federal law. I want a federal judge to decide this. And so they can. And that's known as federal question jurisdiction. And so that provides a basis for them to remove it from state court to federal court. Well, what if there are no federal claims? Okay. Well, then if we have what's known as complete diversity, and that is if you look at, it's Joe Blow versus Susie Smith. Okay. Then we say, are any of the people here on the plaintiff side and any of the people on the defendant side, are any of these folks, do they live in the same state? Okay. So if we have an Alabama resident suing another Alabama resident, well, then that can't go to federal court unless there's that federal question jurisdiction. Okay. Occasionally there are exceptions, but I'm giving you the basic rule. Now, if we have, let's say, Alabama resident suing a Georgia resident, well, then that Georgia resident can remove the case to federal court if the amount in controversy, in other words, the amount that the plaintiff is suing for, is more than $75,000. So, that's kind of the theory, is that if it's a federal question, well then, hey, let's get in federal court. And if you have people from different states and you're not sued in your home state, the concern is, well, hey, maybe they're going to take advantage of me because I'm not from the state. Okay, so the example of an Alabama resident suing a Georgia resident in Alabama court, the person from Georgia could say, I don't know, am I going to get a fair shake here? Let me take it to federal court. Maybe that'll be less political and it will be, I'll get, an even playing field. Okay. Level playing field. And you could sort of imagine, if you're from Alabama or Louisiana and you're sued in New York, you might say, well, I don't know that I'm going to get a fair shake up here. Let me take it to a federal judge in New York. Now, I have practiced in a number of places and been brought into cases all over. I have not noticed any particular bias, like, oh, you're from the South or you're from the West or the North or the Midwest or where. I think most judges, if not all judges, at least that I've come into contact with, everybody has their own bias, their own, sort of life experience. But I think basically all the ones that I've known have tried to do a good job with that. But that's still available to take it from federal court or from state court to federal court. So, we've talked about the theory behind it. It's federal question jurisdiction, or you're sued in a state that, is not where you're from. And there's this complete diversity. Okay. And that's the basis for it. So is this a good or a bad thing? Well, first of all, it doesn't matter because this is the rule. The defendant can do it if they do it within the right time period and there's some procedural steps to follow. I'll just tell you from my perspective, we file everything in state court. And if the defendant wants to leave it in state court, great. We're thrilled to have it in state court. Okay. We've been practicing in state court for 25 years. But if they want to remove it, because most of our claims are either federal consumer type claims, so Fair Credit Reporting Act, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, things like that, or they involve pretty significant injuries, and we may be suing an out-of-state trucking company, and it's definitely more than $75,000, so they have the right to remove it. So really, we don't care. We're very comfortable in federal court. It tends to move a little faster in federal court. We're also comfortable in state court. State court tends to be, not always, but tends to be a little more casual. So it's not that one is better or worse than the other. They're just a little different by and large. Now, some federal judges are more sort of casual. Some are more formal. We have some state court judges that are extremely formal. So I'm just giving you kind of the almost a stereotype here that state court tends to be a little looser, federal court, kind of a little tighter, a little more strict, with the rules and getting continuances and things like that. So again, it doesn't really matter, okay? Because if the defendant has the right to remove, there's nothing you can do to stop them from removing that case. Now sometimes the way you plead your case or who the parties are, you might can influence it, but either they have the right to remove or they don't have the right to remove. And it is what it is. And so you've got to be, very comfortable and confident, or your lawyer does. Are you in state court? Are you in federal court? It ought to be, it doesn't matter to me, because both of those places, it's the same law, maybe a little different procedural, but you can get great results in both courts. And, I think by and large, trials and judges conduct themselves in a very fair manner, again, whether in state court or federal court. So that's what removal is. It's just taking that case from state court and removing or transferring it to federal court. So I hope that that's helpful to you, and I'll catch you in tomorrow's video. Okay, bye-bye.